A few weeks ago, I made a video where I said that our country is not very welcoming for parents and children. Our country wants you to have children, but when you do, they want you to keep them quiet and out of sight and ideally off of airplanes. I made this video and a woman stitched it, and she said that she doesn't really like kids, she doesn't have kids, but she doesn't mind if there's a baby on the airplane because she can have empathy for that. But if your toddler is on the airplane and being annoying, then she doesn't have empathy for that. You need to do more as a parent. You need to keep your kid quiet. You need to drive them cross country. You shouldn't be on an airplane. And it's so interesting because there are other countries that are much more family friendly, where they view children as a part of society and they welcome them being there. But in the US in particular, many people are frustrated simply by the existence of children. You go into a muffin shop and somebody gives you a dirty look because your child is there and that's going to inconvenience them. You go to the grocery store and if your child cries, people are frustrated. We are basically told that we should keep our children out of sight and out of mind and best keep them quiet if they are in public. Interesting thing here is that no matter what you do, you're doing something wrong. If you're on an airplane and you give your kid an iPad and they're quiet for 3 straight hours, you're judged for giving your kid that much screen time. If you're on an airplane and you don't give your kid screen time and your child whines and cries and maybe kicks the seat in front of them, you're a bad parent. No matter what you do, you're a bad parent. But let me tell you, I don't think any of us like being trapped on an airplane for 3 hours with strangers. We get uncomfortable, we fidget, we do things maybe we wouldn't normally do. And since we're adults, we're pretty good at regulating our emotions. But if I were a toddler, trapped on an airplane for 3 hours, I'm sure I would lose it a few times because I'm not used to that environment. I'm not equipped for that environment, and the only way I will become equipped is by doing it. Our country does not treat families and children with any sort of respect. We treat them as though they are a burden, that they are a nuisance. And yet we also claim to be a country, right now, very specific politicians claim to be pro-family. When you talk to people who travel abroad, they will tell you stories about how kind everyone is in other countries. My friend went abroad this summer to her husband's home country, and she was like, every restaurant we went to, people were so happy the kids were there. There was always a playground nearby or a space for them to play. People didn't care if they walked around. People came over and talked to them. No one was annoyed that they were there. There are cultures that view children as a part of their society. They don't scold children for being present. They don't get frustrated when children act like children. And I don't want to hear the narrative that like, oh, children are fine. It's just parents. Parents don't parent their kids these days anymore. No, parents don't put their kids in positions where they're scared to be a child in public. That's probably the difference. A lot of children were walking around genuinely scared to show their true emotions. And now kids feel much more comfortable with their parents. But also like, there's this narrative that parents just ignore their kids' behavior, that we ignore them throwing a tantrum or we ignore them doing X, Y, and Z. Oftentimes parents are using tools that they've been taught in this era of like information overload, right? We have all these parenting experts telling us how to deal with a tantrum and how to deal with this and how to regulate your kid when they're feeling this way. And oftentimes parents are implementing those strategies, but people who don't have children or who raised children many, many years ago view it as ignoring. It's mind-boggling to me. I don't know. I would love to hear your experiences in the comments. Do you feel like you get judged when you're out in public with your kids? If you live in a different country, is it better? Is it more child-friendly? Is it more family-focused? Like, what are you experiencing? Because I think oftentimes the people who are annoyed by children being in public truly just are annoyed they're there. Before a kid even does anything, they're frustrated that kid's there. They're not often like, oh, wow, how cute. They're like, oh, God, there's a kid here. And that's a very different environment to be raising children. So it's not surprising people are choosing to stop doing it.